Welcome to the Local Exchange Podcast, where Northwest Ohio comes to talk. Real people, real conversations, right here in our community. This episode is proudly brought to you by Caliber Custom Clothiers, defining style beyond ordinary. Well, Matt, we finally made it. This is the first episode we're doing by ourselves outside of that very first one, and the election is over. We can take all the signs out of our yard, and the results are in. And the Shawnee community came out strong, and that was one of the news things that came out was that across the board, voter turnout wasn't necessarily super high in the county, except for in Shawnee Township. So I just want to start out and kind of give a little round of applause to our voters for getting out and voting. Ultimately, that is the most important thing, and that was one of the goals that I had coming on here was making sure that people felt empowered to vote and that they understood what they needed. Matt, you seem like you're ready to say something.
Well, so some of the statistics are interesting. Just in general, Shawnee votes at I want to say it was like 45% of people, 42%. 42% of people, of eligible voters in Shawnee voted, which is a huge number.
That is a big number in terms of that's impressive that many people
especially
voted.
For an off-year, non-presidential election. That's a huge number.
Yep.
Most places are at 15 to 20%.
Yeah, which clearly there was a few topics that got people out there and wanted to vote. And
so, right.
Quick summary on the results. So obviously the Shawnee Township race was quite big on this podcast, and Kenny Gross and Paul Neff, congratulations to both of them. They will be our new township trustees on January 1st. That's when that will start for them. Outside of that, the Shawnee Police Levy passed in a very big fashion. The Shawnee School Levy passed in a great fashion, and a special shout out to Aaron Cunningham, who came on this podcast, and he will now be serving on the Elida School Board. So
I don't know where they were. I don't know how that was the one issue. I don't love those. I don't love hometown stations. I'm going to be honest with you.
It's a hot take.
I was watching the basketball game, and they'd go through one run of the results about every 30 minutes. Quite different than when you watch a major news network and you're getting up to the minute reporting. This was very scattershot reporting, I would argue. But we did eventually get the numbers at, I don't know what time I texted you.
I don't know.
It was about 9:30-ish.
I was in the middle of playing darts. I'm in a dart league with some guys, and so we're just throwing some darts, and I'm watching election results, and they're looking at me a little funny, but hey, I'm too invested in it at this point.
We did say this is the one thing you should be invested in is local. This will affect us much more than who the president is. Yeah, honestly,
100%. So I found some things interesting. First off, if you're just going by how many people voted for items, the most voted on item in the Shawnee Township was the school levy, which passed. We had just over 4,000 voters that voted on that. And then the Shawnee Police Levy seemed to come in second there, and that was around 3,400 votes came in. And then if you're just splitting the total votes for the trustees in two, which obviously some people might not vote for things, some people might have voted for just one trustee, you have just over 3,000. So actually the trustee vote, if you're looking by individual voters, may have been a lower turnout.
Right, which is crazy. If you step into that booth, it blows my mind that somebody would mark yes or no on the school issue, but not have a thought or care to vote on the police issue.
I appreciate. Well, yeah, I can understand not voting for the trustees, but how do you not have your mind made up that if you're going to vote yes on the school levy, I would imagine you're voting yes on the
right, or you're voting no, but that immediately affects your what you're paying in taxes, and that's more of an issue I would say for more people than the school is.
Yeah.
But I'm as I've mentioned before, I'm very invested in the school doing well as somebody that has kids in the school district. Mm-hmm. So thank you voters for voting to continue funding the school, because the state is maybe dropping the ball on that a little bit.
Well, we might have plenty of conversations about that topic in the future. one thing that you see all this stuff in social media, and we had some really great results as far as people paying attention, viewing our podcast, commenting, sharing it, interacting with it. And so I was curious what to make of any of that as far as what was going to happen on election night. And if you're just looking at YouTube, first off, the number one video we had was from Ryan Schott. And so what that tells me is that people wanted to hear from a 26-year veteran of the fire department of what exactly is going on day to day in the fire department, trying to understand that. And it's not surprising that that's the biggest topic.
Or you could argue people love drama.
Well, people certainly love drama. That's why they're listening to us, Matt.
Right. Keep loving that, right?
But and then behind him, you had Kenny, and he was pretty well separated from the other three people that came on this podcast. And as far as total time watched, total viewers, all of the above, it's pretty consistent there. But it went in the same order that the election went as well, which I found interesting. On the Facebook side of things, Kenny was still just the king with the views. He had a clear separation there. And then actually afterwards, you had Ryan for number 2. And then actually Aaron Cunningham was number 3 in terms of Facebook. So he did really well from our crowd. But then Chad and Paul and Mindy were all really neck and neck past that. So that it kind of lined up with what happened. We just didn't know what was going to happen with the two incumbents.
Do we think that our viewership, though, may have had something to do with Kenny's was the first one and had the longest time to get traction?
I think the biggest...
And who was last? Mindy was last?
Mindy was last. And
Mindy had Mindy was last in order of people that we spoke with.
Yeah. Well, I'll at least give, from that perspective, credit to Kenny and the people who followed him. He had the most follows. I mean, the most shares of his content, which means it was getting out to the most people.
Right.
And when you're sharing, that's the equivalent of a yard sign, a really solid endorsement. And, that speaks volumes. And so I think that was a big deal for people.
The question I have for you is, are you prepared to accept responsibility that the two people that did not partake finished in 5th and 6th place? Is that a thing that I don't want to sit here and say, oh, we influenced an election, but no. I do think that their general strategy of do nothing, say nothing, sort of ride off of our being incumbents. Do you think that
put a bunch of mulch down across the street on election day? We can do that.
You think that played a part?
I wouldn't say. I'm not going to connect that to our podcast.
I'm going to accept responsibility.
I would say that I'm a very big advocate of you need to be responsible for the outcomes that are happening in your life. You need to take responsibility. And so what I mean by that is we had 4 people that were actively talking to this community about the issues that mattered to this community. And you can decide that you don't think that this was important or that was important. But at the end of the day, if it's important to the people in this community, you need to be out there talking to the people. And so there was 4 that were doing that. They did that through the town hall. And so that was an event that certainly helped out. And they got a lot of news. And there were a lot of people that paid attention to our podcast. I think without our podcast, it probably would have had a very similar result.
I think so.
Those results spoke for themselves.
I think that, I don't know. I would equate it this way. I talked to somebody today about it. Incumbents generally have an easier go of it. They have name recognition. They have on-the-job experience they can tout and say, these other people are not prepared for. They don't know what they're walking into. It's going to take them a year to get caught up. We basically have put government on hold for a year until they get their feet wet. Mm-hmm. Incumbents generally have a better chance of winning.
Yep.
This was such a huge turnaround.
They lost 43 and 45% of their vote from last time.
That would be like if Ohio State and Oregon next year finished in last and second to last place in the Big Ten. That would be just such a staggering fall. And I would say the biggest winners of the Shawnee trustee election are the firefighters, because they bang that drum for, I don't know if they're still posting 163 days since Chief Miller's been under investigation or whatever day mark we're at. They bang that drum every day, and they brought attention to that, which then brought on a lot of people who, it brought on 4 candidates who said this should be a priority. Rightly so or not, I do not know. But the firefighters bang the drum of, they're from the union, their one post was, do not vote for the 2 incumbents, which means they got their wish.
Well, again, I'm not going to say that that's what swung it. Ultimately, there was 2 people that had the opportunity to speak to the public, to make sense of the situation, and to share their perspective on something. And I'm sure that they have a very good reason for everything that they're doing. And to stay silent in the middle of an election campaign was obviously not a good strategy in hindsight. And I think, just for the record, appearing that you're an enemy of either the police department or the fire department in any town when you're running for public office
generally a bad
is
strategy.
Probably not a good strategy. So just for future people running, probably not a good idea.
It's weird, because I do think, by and large, you could make a strong case that Shawnee is in a better place today than it was 4 years ago. You could argue the budget's better. You could argue we've brought in some new businesses, including some big name businesses. We have a dispatch center. No matter what your feelings are about it, we've spent the money. The fire department has gotten some new bells and whistles, so quite literally some bells and whistles.
Yeah.
You could make a strong case that the last 4 years under the current administration of trustees has been pretty good.
Yeah.
And to see such a swing of general stability, and you can say we can't identify which issue it was. I wholeheartly believe it's one issue. It's all we had everybody on. All they wanted to talk about was one issue.
Yeah.
It comes down to that one issue, and like I said, kudos to the fire department, because they seem to have gotten their way.
Well, I can't blame them based on the conversations we had for being upset. And from a lot of the discussions that we had, it seems like it was one of the 2 trustees that seemed to upset them. And, at the end of the day, that took down both of them. And it's unfortunate, but that's what happened, and we're moving in a different direction. And so now we have the responsibility that's being put on Kenny and Paul to manage this situation, and they do have the responsibility to make sure they look into whatever the situation is with Chief Miller and make a good decision. And then they have to make sure this fire department runs smoothly and there's not any big drama with it. They can't just give everybody a free pass, but just manage them. That's what we're asking as a community.
Are you prepared to make a prediction as to what happens regarding the because we now have all of November, or most of November, and all of December. We have approximately 60 days of the current administration. Do you think in that 60-day time frame they will wrap up the Chief Miller investigation?
Well, I think there's 3 things that can happen. Thing number 1 is the suspension remains for the next 60 days, and they let the new trustees handle and decide how to move forward. Thing number 2 is they wrap up the investigation and decide that maybe he can continue to be the chief, and whatever happened, it's a slap on the wrist, very expensive investigation, and we're moving on. And thing number 3 is they can decide that whatever he did was egregious and he can get let go. So those are the 3 options. If you're asking me what I think will happen, I think the suspension will probably remain. And I don't think it would be fair for them to get rid of him. I think the people of Shawnee have made it loud and clear that this is an important topic for them. And so that decision should probably be made by Kenny and Paul. And I think the three trustees that are currently sitting there should, if they care about this community, should make sure they have all of the information at hand to make the best decision for our community.
I agree. I also hope that they let the new trustees be involved in the decision-making process. I am a big proponent in, all right, we had an election, the people have spoken. Let's let these two new guys. However, I am slightly concerned. These two guys, both of them, one was a firefighter in that department as a volunteer for 40-something-ish years, if my memory serves.
Yep.
How beholden, I'm concerned how beholden these guys may be to the fire department. They ran on, we're going to take care of our firefighters. How impartial, and we don't know what this investigation has shown. To my knowledge, we don't even know what he's actually being investigated for.
Nope.
So do you think these two new and Joe Recker, who will remain a trustee, can be impartial based on they've been nothing but supportive, having not seen any investigation stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult situation for anyone to step into. And honestly, I mean, even if all this drama didn't exist, that's the question that any trustee faces. Because how do you manage, the fire and the police and all these different departments? You wanna have a mix of being their friend, but also be stern and make sure that they're doing things the right way.
You are ultimately their boss.
You are ultimately their boss. And I think the two that are getting in clearly understand that. But to your point, it would be an odd look. You would be shocked a little bit if they went in and then just the same stuff kept going on. But then your question would be, do things get out of control? I don't know why they would. I have faith in the two guys that were sitting in front of us. That's the beauty of this whole situation. We talked to two great guys. We talked to a lot of different people, but Kenny and Paul, I'd like to think I've got a good sense of people. I can judge a man's character, and when they sat there and they talked to us, I believe that they're going to be doing what's best for this township.
I agree. I do not think that either one of them would. I don't think either one of them are going to lower their personal values just because they have an affinity for a fire department.
And to be clear, if they did, that would go directly against what they said sitting there on that couch. And I understand politicians,
it happens.
They do what they do, but they made it clear that this was a commitment they were making and they were going to be transparent and everything else. So I have to trust that that's what they're going to do.
And I hope that they look at the facts of whatever this investigation has entailed, provided they are given the opportunity to, provided a decision's not made, because I hope, like you, that it is the first option you laid out, which is they let the two new guys come in, look at the investigation, and go from there. It makes me unhappy that we're going to continue to pay a guy for 2 more months to sit at home.
Mm-hmm.
No offense to him. I think he'd probably prefer to be at work, but we're going to pay a guy for 2 more months. We're going to pay an acting guy for 2 more months. I don't love that we're going to drag this thing out and kick the can down the road another 2 months. However, I'm not sold that that's what they'll do. I think that if I was a gambling man, I think they're going to wrap up this investigation now.
Well, time will tell.
Time will tell.
There was 2 other kind of questions that I think are lingering that I want to get to the bottom of. The first is the dispatch center. So it's my goal to, whether it's getting Chief Coley on here or another member that could speak to that. I've gotten some information on it, something about the difference between making a phone call on your cell phone versus a landline. I just want someone to explain it to me. I don't really, I'm assuming that there's a good answer for it. So that's one goal. And then the other thing is I want to get to the same point, the same way that people are mad about the firehouse. I want to find out what the plans are in place for the Shawnee school. when are we going to get a new school? And it's something that people talk about for a really long time, and it never gets answered. And you're obviously very passionate about it as well. It was one of the first things I asked it was in the second levy meeting I sat in. I asked about the schools and what the deal is. And if the analogy I used was, are we on a sinking ship and we're just replacing the boards and eventually this thing's going down? Or is there truly a plan in sight? And I was told that there is a plan in sight in the not too distant future. So I would love I think that citizens of Shawnee would love to hear that. I think it would.
Well, they obviously
get 'em
support the
excited.
school,
Yeah.
as evidenced by more people voted for that than any other issue.
Yep.
So it is incredibly important.
So I think that's the three things that are at least on my mind: the fire chief, the dispatch, and then the future of Shawnee. Just what are we doing with the school?
Not the firehouse, the one thing every single person brought up.
Well, I think that that's going to naturally answer itself within the course of these next 4 years. There's no way these two trustees are getting in and they're not making that a priority. And I would imagine whoever the acting fire chief is going to make that a priority as well, because they're very big in that. And whoever it is has to update these 3 and 5 year plans that they put together as a forecast, because there was things done after Chief Miller was suspended that will completely change that 3 and 5 year plan. And maybe that's good that things were paid off, but at the end of the day, it completely changes those forecasts.
And if we would have had the opportunity to speak to somebody that was intimately knowledgeable about things financial with the township, and if these documents were readily available and I wasn't scouring news sources, somebody should have mentioned they kind of have been building up a small pot of money for that purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be nice to see that pot of money continue to grow with the intent of just paying off a new firehouse in a few years.
Yep.
But to somebody's point, maybe we should, put a plan out there in place, just like with the school.
Yep.
Stop having surveys.
Yeah.
Pick an option and move forward.
Yeah. And just let the people know where we're at with it. That's the main thing. Shawnee School Board, we technically were voting on that yesterday, but there was no competition. You couldn't write anything.
I don't know
in.
that I should say this, but I wrote you in.
Thank you.
You got to vote, John.
There was a sign that specifically said, do not write anybody in. It's not going to be counted. So I appreciate your vote, but I will not be getting elected. Haven't gotten the call yet, at least. But there's 2 open seats, and it's my understanding that nominations are going to happen internally, so that process will work itself out on that side. But hopefully we get there's some really great people in this community that I think that they're going to be able to tap and get in there.
I feel like trustee-elect Kenny Gross could probably answer some questions about how all that would play out.
It's true. He's been on the school board.
I think he was
the president?
I think he went through the process of getting elected through
through the nomination.
Through a nomination process.
That's right. So we could certainly get some information from him on that. Community events coming up. We got the Roundabout Christmas this Saturday from 3 to 7. You going to go? Once that Christmas tree light up, Matt?
I don't know.
There's a little train that drags people around. It's awesome. There's
a
ton of vendors out
sold
there.
Me. You sold me.
And then the lighting of the Christmas tree.
We went last year.
I
like that we've been doing more. I thought I like the Jubilee that they did at the school.
Yeah.
I wish they, next year are a little more prepared and have more than one beverage vehicle there.
Who expected that turnout?
It was a big turnout. I like that they're raising money for all of this stuff, and we can do things like this. It helps with the community. I always think of Wapak when I think of community events. Their downtown constantly has stuff going on.
Yep.
Shawnee doesn't really have a downtown.
Nope.
So we continue to migrate between parking lots, it seems, because that's the best place for us to do it.
Hey, we're
but it's something.
Got to start somewhere.
It's something, and I enjoy that we do it.
Yeah. Couple of big playoff football games coming up here. Got Shawnee at Wapak this Friday, and man, that homecoming football game when Wapak came to us, whoever that number 0 kid is, absolutely ruined our life on both sides of the ball. That was impressive.
We have quite a few people that have mentioned wanting to get more into sports, and I think we'd love to hear from viewers.
Yeah.
Like if if you want us to get more into, we're coming up on basketball season, obviously. If that's a thing that people would like us to get into, we have plenty of people who have volunteered their time to cover different teams, different sports. We'd love to expand to get into that. We've been interviewing, I don't know that we have a topic name for it, but interesting people in the community.
Just good people. I think a lot of business leaders get interviewed, but just good people that are making a difference in the community get interviewed.
And so, as we put a button on this election season here, I'd like to see us continue to do, elected officials in the county. There's going to be a lot of new trustees, a lot of new school board members, a lot of new city council members. A lot of organizations won their levies. I'd love to get some of those individuals in.
Mm-hmm.
But then also good people, community events, and sports. Sports are the one thing that I think you really unite everybody.
Well, and ultimately, I think when we add different things onto this podcast, people are going to maybe tune in and say, I don't really want to listen to that. And that's fine. Just skip on over it and wait for the person that you are interested. Well, read that little episode description about who the person is and what we're talking about. And if that doesn't sound fun, then just move on. But, we're certainly going to continue when events come up and there's interesting topics. We will bring people on to have a conversation about it. I think it's fun.
Is there something in this my last question for you would be, is there something that you wish we had more feedback on from a citizen about a question we should have asked? Do you wish we got more feedback on the production value of this? Do you wish we got more feedback from people about potential guests?
I think we got pretty good feedback on potential guests. I would encourage people to reach out if they are interested on coming on. I would love for you to tell me what you would like to talk about and what interesting things you think we should cover and discuss. Because ultimately, if you and I aren't interested in whatever the topic is, kind of be tough for us to carry on an entertaining podcast.
I don't know. I can argue with anybody about anything.
Conversations, Matt. This is a local exchange, not a local argument. Okay. But as far as getting feedback, people seem to like the production value. They were very impressed by the work that you did producing these things. I know it was a lot of hard work, so thank you for the effort you put in and continue to put into this. But overall, I think that it's clear that people really enjoyed what we put together, and we heard from a lot of people in the community that were grateful that we put this together so that they could make an informed decision.
There's probably two people who are less than grateful.
Well, if either of those two people came on, I'm guessing that they might be sitting in a completely different seat today.
Yeah, maybe not.
Because all I'm trying to do is lift people up and get their message out. And I got a feeling that we could have had some pretty easy answers to some questions.
Right. Like I said, the township, overall, my takeaway is, I love that we got out and voted.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing how quick democracy can work and the tides can turn. Because if you'd have told me a month ago both incumbents were going to come in 5th and 6th place, I'd have said not a shot.
Yeah, and I mean, you think about that. Mindy probably would have said her goal for coming into this election was to get one of the incumbents out.
I think they all
beat both of them.
I think they all would have said that.
I think his goals were to win. And so I would hate to set them lower and say it was just to get the incumbents out. All four of them had the same mentality as far as they wanted to make sure that at least somebody got in and they could shake some things up. But to have all four of them essentially get exactly what they wanted to have happen, obviously everyone wants to win, but the baseline goal was accomplished for all four of them, and they were all worried about splitting up votes, but turned out they didn't have to worry about that.
No.
It's incredible.
I'm shocked.
It was shocking. First off, I hope we can have a smooth transition here. This has been cat-like, and I don't like it. We have a couple of adults that are all working to do what is best for the Shawnee Township. So let's have a smooth transition of leadership. Let's be respectful to these ongoing investigations and make sure that we're listening to the people of this town and doing what is in the town's best interest, because any rash decisions or anything other than acting in a cordial and respectful way could really cause a lot of pain. Right. That's unnecessary for this town. So that's the first thing I'm hoping for. And then I do think there's an opportunity for collaboration. Obviously, there's 4 people that didn't win, but if they still want to be involved in this community, please, I'm sure that Kenny and Paul would love their help. Please tap those resources. And this is just as much on Kenny and Paul to reach out to some of these people that they sat beside and thought so highly of. Get them involved in the community, because I can guarantee you that at very least Mindy and Chad would love to help out this town.
Well, and so as did John.
Yeah.
Hollenbacher was obviously very pro, let me help in whatever capacity I can.
Yeah, and John's just going to be there. He's going to be at every meeting and every opportunity.
I do worry we're going to have to split. There's going to be other townships that are unhappy. They're going to miss Paul's presence at their board meetings because he'll probably be busy.
They will be a little sad. There's going to be an empty seat that they put there for Paul Neff, and people just kind of pour a drink out when they walk by. But, just want to say again, thank you to everyone who ran, not only our elections, but the other elections out there. I can't imagine just throwing your name out there and knocking on doors. And I mean, obviously, we're sitting here on a podcast with cameras in our face, but there's no one else in this room.
The joke's on you. I edit it. This is all your face.
Wonderful. So this is, I feel bad for everyone. But I couldn't be happier for Paul and Kenny. I think they're going to do a great job. I think that they love this community, and I think their community clearly loves them. And we're excited to see everything else that Shawnee Township can accomplish. And just, on a complete side note for Aaron Cunningham, hopefully he's got 8 years, a good run over there, up there in Elida. Because
that's what he promised us.
That was
8 now.
That was a wonderful interview. I enjoyed them, but I enjoyed everyone else coming on here. So I look forward to talking with additional community members about a wide range of topics. I don't know what we're going to get into, but
hopefully those two, both Paul and Kenny, in a couple months when they've had a chance to get their feet wet.
Yeah, we'll give them a few months.
Come in and give us some time as official elected officials.
Yeah, we'll bring them in together. They'll come. So, well, Matt, let's wrap this up. I don't think we went too long on this one, but hey, it was a fun ride. We wanted to just do the local elections, and now I think we got at least 4 or 5 scheduled out in the future, and we're gonna keep going past that. And we don't know what direction we'll go, but we're always gonna try to come back and cover these things that are important to the local
watching.
Towns. So, thank you very much to our viewers, to the people that paid attention. We aren't making any money off this. This is all just our time, and it's a decent amount of time. But Matt, I thoroughly enjoy doing this with you.
I enjoy it too.
And you think all the way back to kindergarten when we probably first met. I don't think we would have assumed we were sitting here filming podcasts.
I did. This is exactly where I thought I'd be 30 years later.
You are a true visionary, Matt, and hats off to you. With that, I will wrap this up.